checkpoint 2 miles and fraud
are engaged in. It shouldn't happen at all by anybody ever.
Commissioner Carson now.
Thank you. The Civil Rights Commission did go down to Florida after the 2000 election, after there were scores of reports about voter intimidation and fraud, and the commission heard considerable testimony and was able to glean 2 instances in which there may have been some blockage of voting. One was an empty state trooper car that was across the street from a polling place. That was the extent of it. The other one was a traffic checkpoint 2 miles away and not even on the same road as another polling place, which checkpoint actually stopped. The allegation was that there were a certain number of people who were stopped. The people who were stopped were people with broken tail lights and the usual checkpoints. So the commission did go down there, and despite all of the allegations, that's the extent of what we were able to find, and the Justice Department wasn't able to find anything else. That's not to say there wasn't anything, but we have to look at the empirical evidence. But my concern goes more to, Mr. Fund raised the issue of absentee ballots, and we've been concerned about a photo ID and what kind of safeguard does photo ID present if we have absentee ballots, and there's proliferation of that. The Miami election of 1998, the mayoral election, was set aside because of irregularities with respect to absentee ballots. And just as an aside, in Florida again, race decided for president by 579 votes, and the Miami Herald was able to discern 2,000 people voting illegally. That changes the election, or could have the potential of changing the election. With respect to absentee ballots, does Mexico have biometrics that they attach to their ballots or the registration lists? And if so, has there been any consideration given or assessment done, either by the Carter-Baker Commission or elsewhere, as to what the cost of any kind of biometric protection, either at the polling place or by absentee ballot? It seems to me that would also encourage, Ms. Brazil, you were talking about multiple forms of identification having to be produced. Sometimes poll workers aren't aware of the fact that provisional ballots may obviate that need. But if you've got one uniform standard that is immutable, that no one can effectively even challenge you, that might be a means by which you can ensure both integrity and also access. But I'm concerned about, has there been a cost assessment associated with that?
First, in regard to Mexico, and Mr. Yaki is absolutely right. Mexico, I started observing Mexican elections in 1986. And learned everything I needed to know about electoral fraud. The Mexicans had perfected dozens. In fact, they have more words for electoral fraud than Eskimos have for snow. Because of that, however, they leaped over a 20-year period to a system that is significantly more advanced than ours, frankly, right now. They do have biometric identification cards, which were introduced and in which 99% of the voting population have them. They have, as I said, not only biometric voter cards, which they actually use for everything now because they're so fraud-proof, but they also have photos in the registration list of each of the people, too. They don't have a problem. They have not historically had a problem of absentee ballots until this last election, where for the first time they allowed people in the United States and abroad to vote, but only a very small percentage did. But they still needed their voter card. And also they had some special sites for voting as well. Now, with regard to the United States, 40 million Americans now need biometric cards for security-related reasons. And I think that number will increase over time as well. We did look into the cost of it, and it's very expensive. There's no question. We looked into a national identity